Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Entertainment Network India Limited Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. Joining us on the call today are Mr. Prashant Pandey, MD and CEO, Entertainment Network India Limited, and Mr. N. Subramaniam, Executive Director and Group CFO, Entertainment Network India Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Prashant Pandey. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rutuja, and welcome to the conference call, dear investors. As always, I'll make a few opening remarks and then we will be happy to take your call. With me is N. Subramaniam, who is the Group CFO, as you know. We have sent you the investor presentation, but allow me to touch upon a few highlights of the quarter gone by. The quarter was a mixed quarter. It was a mixed quarter in the sense that there was growth compared to the same quarter last year. However, compared to the pre-pandemic levels, it was still a very bad quarter. Compared to the last year's quarter one, the revenues have grown by 44% on a like-to-like basis. Underlying EBITDA has grown by 39% approximately, and PAT has also grown by approximately 24%. So it was a better quarter than the same quarter last year, clearly because the lockdowns this year were more staggered, they were more local, and they were less restrictive than last year. But compared to the same quarter in the pre-pandemic period of time, like I mentioned to you, the revenue growth was 71% lower than 2 years ago. And instead of EBITDA profit of 33 crores, we reported a reported EBITDA was minus 18.7. So clearly, the operating leverage that the radio industry works under was in play in this quarter, and whatever revenue loss we suffered has actually gone down to the bottom line and converted it to a loss. But honestly, I will tell you at this point in time that it is not something that worries us any longer. When we were speaking with you last year, we had no certainty about what was going to happen, and I would say that we were more worried last year. But in the year that has gone by since last year, we have made a lot of progress in this company, and therefore I'm not overly worried with the results of the first quarter. I look at the next 9 months of the year with a lot of confidence, and in fact we are seeing the recovery being much faster in the months that have gone by, which is in July. We are also seeing that the August month has begun well, and we believe that if the third phase were not to come, then the recovery will be far stronger this year compared to what we saw last year. But the costs very dramatically. So therefore, what it means is that in terms of the profitability of the company, it's going to be a better time compared to last year. Now, in terms of explaining the revenue performance, the revenues improved compared to last year, largely because of the growth of volume. In fact, pricing was down by 5% at an overall level at the network level. Volumes were up by about 60-odd% at the network level, so it was clearly volume-led. But again, that is something that we have known. It doesn't surprise us. Whenever a recovery happens from very low volume levels, recovery is always first in volumes, and then it is followed in pricing. Recovery is, if you look at the volume recovery, all the sectors which had actually underperformed last year have come back in a big way. The biggest category for us is FMCG, which was up by 140% in volumes, ad volumes. Health and pharma is the second biggest sector for radio. It was up by 157% in volumes. The third biggest sector this time was auto, which was up 135% in this quarter for the radio industry. Also, categories like e-commerce, which have become very big, were up by 700%, so approximately 8 times in volume compared to last year. But government and political continued to be a drag on the volume performance of the industry and the company. So the key takeout is that after 1 year, when we look at how the sectors have performed, their confidence in radio remains high, and they have backed it up by giving large volumes to the radio industry. Despite this, the capacity utilization in the industry remains pretty low. In our top 8 markets, the capacity utilization was just 31% in this quarter. And in the batch 1 and batch 2 stations, it was just about half of this, at about 16%. So there's a long way to go. And I think in the second quarter, we will continue to see volume build-up happening. We will continue to see pricing remaining similar levels, but not really growing. But if the third wave does not come, then I think that in the Diwali quarter and in the fourth quarter, which are traditionally very strong quarters for Mirchi, we should start seeing both volumes and pricing going up. Now, the revenues that we did in the quarter, nearly 40% came from our solutions business, and we are now going to start talking about our solutions business in two different parts, one being solutions and the other being digital products. And the reason we are carving this out for you is because digital is starting to see a lot of traction, and this year, for instance, out of the 40% that solutions plus digital contributed to the revenues, approximately 12.5% came from digital, and the remaining 27.5% approximately came from core solutions. What we used to combine called 40%, we are now splitting it up into 12.5% digital and 27.5% for core solutions. We have mentioned this earlier that we see solutions and digital growing faster than traditional radio in the years ahead. We see the share of digital and solutions climbing to approximately 25% each, or approximately 50% in the next couple of years once things stabilize. So clearly, solutions and digitals are the two sources of growth which are going to be continuing in the years to come. Now, the good news, of course, and it's a continuous sustained phenomenon, is that the margins have been improving on the solution business. The margins on solutions, core solutions, was 53% in this quarter. Now, this is, of course, a very high margin, and one of the reasons for this is that we were not able to do on-ground events, and on-ground events come with a lower margin. So this number will taper down in the quarters to come as on-ground opens up. But even so, we expect that lower margin to still remain in the mid-30s or even the higher 30%. It was 53% in the first quarter. The good news is that our digital growth is powered by in a profitable way. So the gross margins on our digital businesses were approximately 31%. So digital is growing and profitably, solutions is growing and profitably. Now let me just tell you a little bit about traditional radio, because at the end of the day, 60% of the company's revenues, even in this quarter, came from radio, and in the future quarters, 50% will continue to come from radio. Well, it is our belief in this company that FY23 and FY24 could possibly become golden years for traditional radio. And the reason I say this is that it is expected, and you will agree with me, that FY23 and FY24 will remain years of economic slowdown in India, even after the pandemic has receded and gone away. Now, of course, FY22 will see a growth of 8 or 9%, but that's a low base of FY21. But if you were to look at steady state growth of FY23 and FY24, chances are that that growth will be somewhere in the region of 5 to 7% per annum, which in India would be called a sluggish growth. Now, we have observed that whenever the growth is sluggish, but there is no lockdown, which means the retail establishments are all open, that's an ideal combination for a vehicle like radio, because brands start spending much more on promotional activities. And when brands spend on promotional activities, the first medium they use is radio. And we have seen that whenever there is an economic slowdown, then radio gets consumed. So we have a feeling that FY23 and FY24 will be strong years for traditional radio. But before the growth happens, we first have to recover the FY20 levels that we had set, which will probably happen in the early part of FY23, and from that point on, 23 and 24 should see growth in traditional radio as well. So basically, the point I'm making is that all three engines of this company should see growth coming up in the latter half of this year, as well as in FY23 and FY24. In terms of international markets, you may be aware that we've made pretty big strides in the recent past. We entered the UAE on 28th of March in a brand licensing, and the news is that the channel is being accepted very well by the listeners over there. The UAE market, and Dubai in particular, where we operate, has started to open up, and the business has started to flow, and we are performing quite well in Dubai. We launched in Qatar just before that on 21st of March, and Qatar also has been going through lockdowns and many other issues, but the markets have started to open up in Qatar as well. We launched Bahrain on 9th of May, and the Bahrain market is a small market, and these are early days, so we are still observing. But the whole region is now emerging from the COVID crisis, and I think we will see some good revenue performance coming up in the quarters ahead. And lastly, on 4th of July, which is the American Independence Day, we opened up San Francisco. We commercially launched in the Bay Area, and signals are available now from the entire stretch from San Francisco all the way up to San Jose. And it's a huge market in the US. It's the biggest radio market for South Asians and Indians. And we have also launched just yesterday a Telugu radio station in the Bay Area, but this is entirely online. And with that, we are doing an experiment because, as you know, in the US, online radio consumption is very popular, and there's a big Telugu population in the Bay Area. So if we are able to appeal to them, and we can get advertisers on the back of that listenership onto our app, then I think we would have found a very good way to enter many other markets in North America and Australia and New Zealand and the UK and many other countries. So the Telugu experiment in San Francisco is very interesting, and we will keep you informed as things go ahead. Finally, in terms of cash, we closed the quarter at 213 odd crore rupees, and despite a pretty significant EBITDA loss, we were able to keep the cash drain at just 5 crores because of very good collections performance during the quarter. Now, the one question that everybody asks, a lot of people ask in quarterly conference calls, and I want to state this upfront, is a question of dividend and cash distribution. Well, our position has not changed since the last time we spoke with you. The board of ENIL will take a call on these matters at an appropriate time. Unfortunately, today we are not in any position to give you any further update from what we had given you 2 months ago. And I will just restate over here that the company plans to invest a substantial portion of its reserves in the digital businesses going forward, not in the radio businesses. And in the digital businesses, we see it as a combination of investments we make directly and investments that we make in external opportunities. But they will be adjacencies to the strengths of Mirchi. We don't want to blindly invest in digital opportunities, but we want to invest in opportunities which are around the area of operation of Mirchi, where Mirchi can either lend its brand name or Mirchi can lend its relationships with the film fraternity, music fraternity, or its brand name or its people, and or wherever the synergies can be put to play is where we will also look at external opportunities. So at the right time, we will come back to you with more information on what we are doing with the cash and what will be our dividend declaration policy in the future. At this point in time, we are not in a position to share any more information with you. With that, Rutuja, Subramaniam and I am available for any calls that the investors may have.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed with the question and answer session, we have one of the speaker is Mr. Sanjay Vallabh, Head of Finance. So ladies and gentlemen, now we will begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Rohit Poti from Marshmallow Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, Rohit, go ahead.
Okay, great. Sir, my first question is on the platform business. If I remember in the last call, we had mentioned that we are getting the approval from the board on our strategy in the platform business, and we'll be getting a detailed update on the same in this call. So it will be helpful if you can share your thoughts on this right now.
So Rohit, we have been in discussions internally and with our board on the digital strategy, but it is work in progress even as we speak. And what I can tell you for a fact is that we are working on launching our web and app platforms. What I can also tell you is that it will happen in towards the end of this calendar year or the early part of the next calendar year. We will be starting many product lines, including audio products, video products, etc. But specific product lines and specific strategy pieces are still to be finalized with the board.
Understood. So a couple of follow-up questions on this. In the last call, I believe you mentioned that we won't be investing a substantial portion of the cash in any way. And this call you said this call I think you mentioned that you're investing a substantial portion of our reserves in this new venture. So if you could give us some more details on what the cash investment will be going forward as well, because if I understand you, it's in 23 and 24, we'll be generating around 100 odd crore of free cash every year. So over the next 3 years, we'll be technically having total cash of around 500 crores, right? So in that context, what is how do you think about this cash distribution and investment in digital businesses? What is the quantum? Is there any share right now?
So Rohit, just like I said, these are the things that need to be discussed with the board, and we haven't reached that stage yet. But what I can tell you is that the cash that we have on hand and the cash that we will generate will be used, as you know, for three good things. One, of course, is the investment that I mentioned to you in digital, both internal and external. They will also be used for as a hedge against any future crisis that may happen, and know that there are uncertainties even today with respect to the pandemic and with respect to to any economic slowdown which may follow. So that is another thing. And then of course there is also the whole opportunity to distribute the cash amongst shareholders. But this entire discussion is what is not yet frozen, and I'm not able to share details and specifics with you.
And I believe around the time of elections, they tend to become the largest, or if not one of the largest contributors to the revenue pie. And if I understand, if what I think is correct, I think next 2 years we're going to have a lot of state elections and we have the big national government elections. So, but generally, how much in advance have you seen this government programs come into radio, and do you think we will see that over the next couple of years coming back strongly?
Yes. So two things happen typically. One is that government starts spending on its programs, and that usually happens a year before the elections at the central level. But at state levels, it is a shorter window. But then there are some states which start spending earlier. You might have already seen that in the newspapers there are some advertising which is already starting from Uttar Pradesh, and elections are, I think, about 6 months out. So typically states will start advertising 6 months ahead of the election date. And then of course the actual election advertising only happens once the election commission announces the dates from that.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request Mr. Rohit to please rejoin the queue? We have participants waiting for their turn.
Yeah, I'll get back to the queue.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. A request to all participants to please limit your questions to 2 per participant. If you have a follow-up question, you may rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Nagraj Chandrasekhar from Laburnum Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I have a question about capital allocation on what you mentioned, the web and the digital, the app platforms. This ballpark, you would have a sense of how much something like that should cost, right, in your head right now. How much should that be ballpark? Because the problem with an app platform is it's just another app that is on someone's phone amongst a cluttered number of apps that are already there. I mean, your sister company, Gaana, already has a very good app that is already likely on someone's phone, or there might be a Saavn, or there might be a Wink app, and then definitely be YouTube. So it's just another app on someone's cluttered phone. And then we already have our stations on Gaana. You know, the sort of rationale for doing that and putting another app sort of becomes slightly vague. So just want to get a sense of the amount of spend for this web and this app investment, and why we are thinking about adding another app to a cluttered sort of offering of OTT video and radio and music apps already in the market.
Yes, good question, Nagraj, and that's precisely what I meant when I said that these are the strategy points that need to be closed with the board. You are very right in asking where is the place for another app, and we are fully seized of that matter, which is why we need to look at what kind of positioning we are going to be adopting for the platform. what kind of content we are going to be placing on the platform, how are we going to be finding synergies with other group assets that we have, and so on and so forth. These are all things which are work in progress. We have our ideas. We have an idea about the investments that are required to be made. And we are also aware that it will take a few years for business to grow and to recover the investments and to break even in these businesses. But we also know that the advantages and the reason why we are entering this market is because, as you know, in this business, it's very important and vital to own the customer. And today, while we have great confidence in our content capabilities, and our content has, as you know, powered external platforms for many years. We did more than 700 million views on YouTube, more than 500 million listens on Gaana, many more million consumption on social media and all that. So we have a lot of confidence in our content strategy. But how do you position the platforms is something that is still work in progress. And therefore, and that is the reason why I said that I'm not in a position to share anything today. But I can assure you that it is work in progress. And when we discuss and close the strategy, it will cover the areas of content, community, commerce, and technology. And we will come back to you as soon as we are able to.
Well, no, I absolutely trust the Times Group to make and generate the best content, and I trust the capital allocation. But just it would be great if it is specified and sort of it done with all these things in mind. And secondly, on the solutions business, as I understand, there is a large linkage between radio and the media solutions business. We said in prior con calls that 25-30% of business will be making a campaign, putting it on radio, and the other portions would be on ground, digital, etc. So, to an extent, is the media solutions business joined at the hip with the radio business, or are there lots of campaigns you do which only include on ground and say digital campaigns only? How does this compete with, say, internal competition from media solutions arms of the BCCL family or the Gaana entity? Is there sort of sharing of revenues and work, or is there competition between the arms as well?
Okay. So again, let me answer this question because there are several parts to it. First, you are very right that solutions business, or at least the media solutions business, is joined. If I won't say at the hip, but it is certainly connected with the advertising spends of the client. So yes, if the advertiser shuts the advertising spend down, then solutions or the media solutions business also gets hit. But there are other components in the solutions business which are not directly dependent on the advertising spends of the advertiser. For instance, a lot of the business, when we do concerts, or when we do on-ground activations for clients, or when we do activations on ground which we then carry to television, these are kind of businesses which do not depend on radio at all. Which actually take money from the advertiser from a different budget of theirs, from what is typically called the below-the-line budget in many cases, or it takes budget away from media, which is money which is allocated to other media, like when we do our television IPs, then the money comes really from television budgets of the clients, or when we do our video content, the budget really comes from either television or OTT budgets. It doesn't come from the radio budget. So there are some parts of the solutions business which are connected with radio, and there are other parts which are not connected with radio. So I hope that this clarifies that particular position. Now, yes, there are synergies with the group. For instance, if in a deal I require to take, if I think that my solution needs a newspaper advertisement or a newspaper coverage, or it needs to put up a show on a television channel as part of a solution, then I will approach Times Now or Times of India, but these dealings are at arm's length basis. And typically, we would pitch for a low rate with our sister companies in the group, just as much as any external client would pitch for a low rate with our group company. So it's at arm's length, but we try and get favorable terms because we're generating incremental business for those publications. So that's as far as that is concerned. And the last part of your question was whether there is competition from other group companies. Well, actually, no, and the reason is very simple. Because see, one of the characteristics of the radio business is that it is relatively small in size. I mean, we did 550 crore rupees in the pre-pandemic period of time, but Times of India did 5,000 crore rupees. Now, for a 5,000 crore rupee elephant to try to dance like a 500 crore rupee, baby is very difficult. And therefore, they typically are not in the same comfort zone with respect to solutions as we are. Second thing I'll tell you, that solutions are best delivered by entertainment companies, not that much by news organizations. Because news organizations tend to be very rigid about their content and tend to be and are very, very concerned with the neutrality of the content. But entertainment products are all about fun. We reach a wider audience and we can do a lot more. We have a lot more flexibility with what we do with our content. So we don't face any competition from Times of India or from Times Now. Gaana is too small. MX Player is in a different business. So to answer your question, within the group, no, there is no real competition. In fact, we do partner with other companies and use their assets wherever required for our solutions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nantaraj.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Gandhi from KTMK Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Prashant. Hi, Subbu. I just have one question. Say, what we are planning to do in few things in digital, it seems like what Times Internet is also doing. Say, direct to consumer from their different properties like MenXP and like many other social commerce you want to do. So why would, say, if I'm a Bennett Coleman and want two companies doing almost something similar, or are we doing something very different which Times Internet cannot do? Please explain.
Okay, so let me attempt to answer that. And again, like I've been saying, Manish, it's work in progress. So don't take my answer as a definitive answer. But see, think about it. What is it that we can do which no other group company can do? Or in fact, no other company outside of our group also can do as well as we can do. I think the whole music and entertainment piece is something that we have very deep roots in. We are probably the only company which does concerts, which does music shows on television, which does radio, which does activations which relate to music and entertainment. And we have deep relationship with music artists. Do you know that there are more than 200 senior artists across the country who actually work for free for Mirchi when we create the awards? Or the video shows that we make using film celebrities. I don't think that there is a single entity in the whole country, forget within the Times of India group, who has all of this in its capability set. And on top of that, the brand Mirchi is a very strong connect with audiences. So there certainly is a room for a brand like Mirchi to do a certain amount of activities on the online space. Now I'll give an example from a different industry. If you look at how Nykaa started, now Nykaa is started by creating an e-commerce platform for beauty products. And then, of course, today it has become much bigger and it has become a platform where it's also become a marketplace. But see, what happened is it's not that beauty products were not available online. They were available online. But somebody made it their core competency and then sold beauty cosmetics in the best possible way, better than what Amazon can sell or Flipkart can sell. I think that opportunity exists today. Considering the fact that today the online commerce is just about, I'm told, $60 or $70 billion in India. And I heard at a conference recently that in another 5 years' time, or I think by 2030, so in another 7-8 years' time, it's going to become $1 trillion opportunity. E-commerce of all types, Manish, in India is expected to become $1 trillion opportunity from some 60 or 70 billion that it is today. I think there is room for a specialist music and entertainment platform to create a lot of communities there, to create products there, to create commerce there, using the content capability. So I'm just giving you a broad outline of what our strategic thinking is about. We haven't finalized anything. And these are, as you can know, these are very difficult discussions. We have had consultants who are working for us. So I think it will give us 6 more months. We will have a proper strategy and we'll be able to answer your question more thoroughly. But the opportunity is enormous and we will not be stepping on other people's toes.
Right. Thanks for the detailed explanation, Prashant. So I would understand better when I have an opportunity to meet you or the new CEO you hired for the digital. So just kind of a related question. When you are doing so many things, we have so much opportunity, right? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do, but say we are in Gulf in few countries. So why are we then again going to America and doing so? Is the management attention also diverts when we are seeing so great an opportunity in India? Why we are diverting our attention? I know we are not investing more. We are just investing 5 crore, but still it's an attention, right?
Yes. So let me answer that question. You are very right. But the way we look at this international opportunity, we are just dipping our toes into what you would call a low-hanging fruit. See, who are we targeting? We're targeting Indians who live in these markets, right? These Indians already have an affinity to Mirchi. They do not have good content available. If we can make ourselves present over there, in our mind, the advertising dollars will follow immediately and fast. Now, in terms of investment, the investments are very low. In terms of management time, it's independent teams which work in these markets. So we have a CEO for America who will look after the expansion in America, look after the expansion in Canada. We have a person who looks after Middle East. And it's these two people, and we have one corporate resource sitting in Mumbai. That's the team. There is no other team. The P&Ls in these countries have to absorb the cost of any other thing that happens. So when we look at the pros and cons of our international strategy, we figure that we have more to gain and the distraction is not that much.
Thank you so much. And I hope, Subbu, you are fine now. Take care. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm fine now. Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants to ask a question. Please press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Rohit Poti from Marshmallow Capital. Please go ahead.
So broadly, I think my questions have been answered. It was just to understand how a new strategy will stand within the Times Group internet piece, which I think you alluded to in the last question. So my question has been answered. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to ask a question, please press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Jinesh Joshi from Prabhudas Lilladher Private Limited. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. I just have one question on the original content creation side. In the presentation, we have mentioned that we have created some content for MX Player. First, if you can explain, what is the team strength when it comes to original content creation on the OTT side, and how is the pricing involved, and what kind of margins do we make on such content? And going ahead too, do we plan to create content for some outside third-party OTT platform, or will we stick with the in-house company, which is MX Player?
No, of course we will not stick to only MX Player. We are already talking to outside platforms. But each platform has a different requirement of content. Some platforms want long-form content. Some platforms want a mix of long and short form. Some platforms want IP transferred to them. Some platforms are happy to let the IP remain with you and they just want licensing of the content. So there are some platforms don't want any brands built into the content. Some platforms are okay with brands. So it's a mixed lay of the land out there. So to answer your question, we are looking at all of those platforms. Now, in terms of original content, remember much of the work gets done outside of the company. So the team that we have is a relatively small team, and this team basically looks at creative ideas that come to them, and they greenlight the creative ideas. Now, once the creative ideas are greenlit, and there's a process in this business where a certain amount of storyline is written, a couple of episodes are written down in detail, and then you present the concept either to platforms for licensing, or you present it to brands if you are selling it to brands. Now, depending on the response you get, you greenlight a few and you keep working on the others. Once it is greenlit, it is typically then outsourced to a production house to produce. And at that point in time, our team supervises it, but it can also move on to other projects that they can handle. So it is typically like, if you look at even a television company, the number of people who work in the programming team of a television company are very few, because a lot of the work is actually done outside of the company, in the production studios that exist outside. So it's the same over here. The skills that you require really internally are in terms of assessing the scripts which come to you, getting scripts written to you, knowing what will work in the market, and basically all the stuff that comes around the kind of content you must create. And we cannot do all types of content because we are not known for it. So then to focus on doing stuff that you can do. Our focus is on trying to create more short form content, a lot of vernacular content, and trying to sell these shows not just as shows, but as a marketing proposition as well. So if you see the work that is happening around Ani Kai Hava, which is the Marathi show that we have just licensed to MX Player, we are also doing part of the marketing for them. And it's again, therefore, in that sense, a solution that we have provided. We give the content and we also provide the marketing solution. So our approach in the market is not that of just a production studio. It's much more. We own the IP. So we bring the brand in this deal. We have also got a brand in to MX Player, and we also do some of the marketing for them. So it's a combination of all these things.
Fair enough. Can you highlight what kind of margins do we make in this entire exercise?
So see, again, margins vary by product category. We normally don't like to do outright sale of the IP, but like I mentioned, there are some platforms which insist on it. We haven't come to that point yet, but we have a model there, and obviously the margins there would be higher. But if you look at licensing, where we get the IP back to us after a year or after 2 years, depending on the deal, there the margins are lesser than an outright sale, but they're still pretty healthy. I mean, I would imagine that margins of between 20% and 30-40% are possible in this. That's what we have done in the last year when we did the deal. We got, I think, how much? 29% or thereabout is what we had got from the 10 show deal that we had done last year.
Fair enough. Sir, one last question. On the pricing front, I mean, do you think that pricing will make a comeback strongly in Q3 and Q4, or we feel that it might be a slightly longer period till the pricing recovers back to the pre-COVID levels? I'm talking about the radio effective rate pricing.
I don't think that the pricing will come back to pre-pandemic levels in the third and the fourth quarter. I think volumes will come back to pre-pandemic levels, and volumes will go higher than the pre-pandemic levels. In fact, don't forget that even last year, in FY21, in the third and the fourth quarters, volumes have gone ahead of pre-pandemic levels. So I'm very certain that the volumes this year will go far ahead of the pre-pandemic volumes. I think pricing will recover. Remember, pricing eroded by about 30% compared to pre-pandemic levels. I think the pricing recovery will take a couple of years. It won't happen in just this first season. It will probably happen maybe 5-10% now, and then in the next year season it will recover another 10%. It may go on till FY23 or FY24.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dinesh.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shikhar Mundra from Vivo Commercial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to know, what was roughly the capacity utilization this quarter for our old stations as well as on new stations?
Shikhar, nice to have you on the call. Like I mentioned, the 8 legacy stations, the capacity utilization was about 31%.
Yeah.
For the next 27, so we have 35 legacy stations. For the next 27, it was about 33%. And for the phase 3, which is batch 1 and batch 2, both was approximately 16.5%. So very, very low capacity utilization.
All right. And how do you foresee them for the next 6 months? Any ballpark number?
See, I was mentioning that July has seen a good recovery. August has seen an even stronger recovery. And if the festive season is fortunately spared of any other waves, then I think that the capacity utilization should go back to pre-pandemic levels in the third quarter, in the Diwali quarter. I mean, if you remember, in those days, the top 35 stations, we would be running at somewhere between 90% and thereabouts. So last year also, the volumes had increased to pre-pandemic levels. So if the third wave does not come, then I think we can see a steep recovery in volumes in October, November, December.
All right. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Shikhar.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Chetan Thakkar from ASK Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Chetan.
Sir, just wanted to understand one thing. There is a restructuring that is going on at Times Group. So just wanted to get a sense on, is there any read across for our business? And will their shift to digital and that pivotal shift, that will have a ramification here, because we also trying to do the same. So just wanted to get a sense on that, if there is any linkage there.
So I don't, Chetan, this is Subramanian. I don't think whatever Times Group does has any impact on what we do. All the businesses in the group are run independently, and nor am I aware of any restructuring at the Times Group. But irrespective of all of that, I don't think it will impact Mirchi in any way.
So our strategy, what we put in place, will go through as we envisage it going forward.
Right. The management of the company will evaluate what is right to do for the company and will present before the board, and if the board is convinced, they will approve it. I don't think the Times Group plans will in any way impact what Mirchi wants to do. And as Prashant explained, we are in a completely different space.
No, that's helpful. That's really helpful. Thank you so much for this. All the best.
Thank you, Chetan.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Arpit Ranka from Covel Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity. 2 questions from my end. First one is on our ability to retain the talent, basically. So radio continues to face headwinds while pandemic has kind of helped, say, TV and OTTs kind of gain business. And one of the things we pride over is 250-300 creative people who work for us. So what's the attrition rates? How they've shaped up over the last year? Are you seeing any pressure in being able to hold back on the talent which is there? Is that something that we should be worried about?
Well, Arpit, you are very right that there is pressure on the attrition front. And like you rightly identified, because there were headwinds in radio while television and OTT were growing. So yes, there is pressure on attrition. However, we have ways to handle it. And one of the most important ways to handle it is to provide the diversity of growth opportunities internally. So because we are growing our digital business, we are growing our audio content, our video content piece very strongly, we are able to keep our key people engaged. And we haven't seen too much attrition amongst our key people. We see more attrition down the line, lower rung people who find it easy to jump across to, and it's really more, so on the digital side, people do jump across to television, digital platforms and those kind of things, but more at the lower level. It's not so much at the higher level that we have found. It remains a problem, it remains a concern, but then it's going to be a concern for all companies. I'm told even television companies lose a lot of people.
No, that's fair point. Is there a way we can kind of map that, not on a quarter-on-quarter basis, but at least say on a year-on-year basis or something like that? Because the real talent is with the people, right? In any media company, in that sense of next to properties. So any way in which we could educate ourselves better, that would be very helpful. Of course, you know better which metric we should look on and things like that. But if you could think on that would be very helpful, actually.
So again, there's a program that we have recently launched, and I'm just probably speaking a little ahead of time, but since you raised the subject, I'll mention to you. With our key talent, we have worked out a mechanism by which they can earn as we earn. And technically, there is no limit to how much they can earn. And if we can transform, and if 25% of our revenues in the company can come from digital products, then our key talent can actually make a lot more money than they can make outside. So we certainly have a plan, and we find that our key talent is interested in this program.
Okay, no, that's helpful. The second question is on the license fees. If I'm not mistaken, the structure is 4% and 2.5% of revenues, and the frequency cost, either of the two, right?
Yes.
And that earlier we used to be in that lower bracket of, I think, 2.5% of revenues, which helped us vis-a-vis the competitors. But I think last year or maybe last 2 years, we may not have been able to really benefit vis-a-vis the competition aspect. Is there room for us to expect that government can relax because it really does kill the industry in a way, right? I think 4% of
Arpit, let me just clarify. You are pretty much correct in your numbers, but I'll just clarify a little bit. See, it's 4% of revenues or 2.5% of the bid value, the one-time entry fee.
Sure.
Okay. So there are two different bases on which these percentages are applied. Now, usually we would fall under the 4% of revenues, and therefore the license fee is not a big burden, at least in our mature. But because of the crash in revenues, in most of our stations, what kicked in was the 2.5% of the one-time entry fee. So just to give an example, if you take the city of Delhi and the one-time entry fee was 168 crore rupees, so 2.5% of that would have come to about 4 crore rupees. So we have to pay 4 crore rupees annually in Delhi any which way. Now, if it was 4% of revenues, then you would have to do, let's say, approximately, I'm just doing 100 crores of revenue. So till the time you were doing 100 crores of revenues in Delhi, you were okay. But if 100 crores drops and becomes, let's say, 50 crores as it dropped last year by 50%, then you are now going to still pay 4 crore rupees. Yeah. So it's a big problem, and the industry has been pitching to the government, but the government is completely unrelenting on this subject. As you know, they have not given concessions to any sector, to be honest, in the last 15 or 18 months. So they haven't given to us as well. So no, there is no relief over there, and we have to just wait for the. In fact, if you notice, even though we cut our costs by 95 crore rupees last year in FY21, the government part of it there was in fact a growth in cost in tower rentals and all of those kind of things, and there was hardly any reduction in the license fee.
Okay. So we should be hopeful. I'm just hoping that given the circumstances, you will see some kind of concession, given that this has been an issue even pre-pandemic, not just, I think, lately. Fair enough. Thanks for the clarification. Thanks a lot.
Pre-pandemic, Arpit, it was not so much of an issue for Mirchi because our revenues were usually higher. But in some of the smaller stations, yes, it was. And in Mirchi Love stations, yes, it was. But I hope that by FY23, we would again have gone back to that level where the 2.5% won't kick in.
No, makes sense. Let's hope for the best. Thanks for your clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Arpit.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nagaraj Chandrasekhar from Laburnum Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the follow-up. You mentioned Nykaa earlier as one of an example of a company that grew in a niche within e-commerce that is growing. Within the media entertainment space, which we want to focus on, are there any examples across the world which are sort of examples of what we are looking to do or closely approximate these and have been successful?
Well, I mean, we are not at all interested in this space, but I'll just give you an example, okay? Which is all your ticketing portals, right? Whether it's Ticketmaster in the US or Book My Show in India, these are also basically in the same space. In the music and entertainment space, they do a degree of e-commerce and they've built a community, right? But like I told you, we're not at all interested in that space. But that's just one of the things. But there are other things by which you can aggregate. See, the whole idea is to aggregate audiences. Okay, let me put it like this. We believe that we got 50 million people to consume our digital content on YouTube. But as you know, when you got 50 million users on YouTube, YouTube barely shared, I think, 1.5 crore rupees with us in the ad revenue split. But if we knew those 50 million people ourselves, we could have monetized it 20, 30 times more. So the point is that a time comes when you have to ask yourself whether you should be creating content to add wings to somebody else's content platform, or should you try to bring it in-house? It was the same question that a Hotstar faced when it decided to create its own platform rather than creating a channel on YouTube, right? So this is a question that comes up with size. So in the last 3-4 years where we've been focused on testing our own capabilities in producing content, we have chosen to put the content on external platforms. But I think now we have got enough confidence in our content capabilities that we can create our own platform. So the platform that we're talking about will be hosting the content. We'll also create a community, and with that community, and once you know the community, you can do either commerce or you can do education. You can do many things. The moment you have a community built up around your platform, you can do many things. And it may take 2 years, but just imagine 2 years later or 3 years later, if Mirchi had 50 million users of its digital content and it knew those 50 million people. So 50 million people would be the same as what we have on FM radio. But 50 million people, you would know the details of these people, and that 50 million people on digital is probably worth, 10 times of what those 50 million people are worth on FM radio. So you get an idea about what I'm talking about. It's not easy to get to the 50 million, but it's an effort worth taking.
Got it. Understood. And just within the rated question, like the 25% mix that you want to get in digital. In an earlier con call, you mentioned the mix between the whole digital business, the YouTube business, which you mentioned the sharing is terrible here, and the original content business. Which of these will grow the most or become the largest portion within this? I'm asking, are we going to, is the third one or content creation going to become the large piece of this, in that we're going to move towards being largely a content producer for channels with the risks that come with it, but with the upside as well?
Well, look at it like this. If we did 32 odd crore rupees in digital related products last year, I think all of it was towards our content business. I think in the next 1 or 2 years, the digital content revenues will expand faster, because like I've been saying, we have skills in that and we are scaling that up. But if you ask me 2 years later, which is in FY24 and FY25, if we are successful in hitting 50 million users on our portal, on our platform, then I think the platform revenues will start kicking in, and then the platform revenues can become similar to the content revenues. So to answer your question specifically, FY22, FY23, I would imagine we would be reliant on the content revenues, but 24, 25, we will see both content and platform revenues, provided we are successful in our platform strategy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nagaraj. And Rutuja, can we just limit it now to last 1 or 2 questions only, please?
Yes, sir. Participants are requested to please limit their questions to 2 per participant. If you have a follow-up question, you may rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Manan Patel from Edelweiss Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir. Sir, I wanted to understand, so last quarter you provided around 97-98 crores for Mirchi Cool FM. So, and combining your comment that pricing will take 2 years to revive. So I wanted to understand, do we expect any provisions from our investment made in the Mirchi stations itself? So it would be great if you could throw some light on that.
Well, Manan, first, let me clarify. Even last quarter when we took the impairment, we had explained that this was a conservative approach that management had taken, considering the impact the pandemic had in FY21 and the likely impact the pandemic would have in FY22 and possibly the slowdown in FY23 as well. So it's a conservative approach in the sense that we've bitten the bullet, we've swallowed the bitter pill, as it were, and therefore, but it is not that our efforts have waned on Mirchi Love and Cool. So we continue to with our efforts over here. So to answer your question, in all honesty, I don't think there should be any more impairment. I think the impairment basically means that we have now established these stations at the lowest possible asset value, and therefore we should be able to convert this to a profitable business going forward. The bitter swill has been swallowed, as I mentioned.
Right, sir. My question arises because, as you mentioned, because your IRR might not match the initial expectation. So the same question happens because of the pandemic. Entire 3 years should be wiped out in terms of revenues. Not wiped out exactly, but substantially lower than expectation. So my question arises because of that.
No, you're very right. In fact, that was the reason we took the impairment, because the IRR as we calculated was falling. So we took the impairment to readjust and recalibrate the IRR back to where we want it to be.
Sir, my question is for the Mirchi Spectrum fees that we have, investment that we have made around 600-700 crores. On that, do we expect any impairments because of lower IRRs going forward?
No, we don't expect any more impairment because we've all the impairment that we fancied has been taken already in the last quarter.
Understood, sir. And in terms of the industry itself, so it reduced to around 1,500 crores last year, and as you say, the pricing might take 2 more years. So do we see any consolidation in the industry or some standalone stations shutting shop? And in that sense, even if industry goes back to 2,500 crores, can we go back to our previous level of revenues?
Well, going back to our previous level of revenues is not related to anybody shutting down or anything or consolidation happening. I think we will hit our previous revenues for sure. Whether it is in the early part of FY23 or the later part of FY23 is difficult to say at this stage, but we will hit it irrespective of what happens to consolidation. But consolidation is something that has to be seen in terms of supply and demand. I mean, I don't know if there is anybody who is willing to buy any other radio network at this stage. And also there are very strict and in fact restrictive government regulations on mergers and acquisitions. So unless the government reforms its policy, I don't see large-scale mergers and acquisitions happening.
Understood, sir. Thanks a lot. That's very helpful.
Thank you, Manan. Rutuja, what I meant was, can we now end the call or maybe take one last question, please?
Sure, sir. Shall we take one last question from the participant?
Sure, yes.
Thank you. This will be the last question, which is from the line of Manish Gandhi from KPMK Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Prashant. Question. So what is happening in the startup space? And I'm not talking about very small startup, but mid-size. And they are doing 5-10 crore of revenue and they are in 2-3 cities. But they are expanding so fast and going to many cities. And obviously they will not advertise on television or any traditional media, maybe print. So our solution actually fits so well with that. So, and it is going to be a huge opportunity for years to come. It may go up and down, but that would have. So are we focusing, targeting that thing, anything, your thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. So what we have seen, Manish, is that when startups find it very appealing we develop solutions for startups and they find it very appealing. Actually, when they become very big, then they find television, etc. to be more economical. So all the big e-commerce or fintech players spend a lot on television, and as you know, and their spend on radio relatively becomes small. But startups are typically, they work very well. We try to develop solutions for them, and that's an active area for us as well.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Manish. Rutuja, can you terminate the call now? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Would you like to give any closing comments?
No, as always, if there are any further queries, we would be very happy to address them. And the contact email address is mentioned in the presentation. You can please reach out and we'll be very happy to respond to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of Entertainment Network India Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line.